Hello and welcome to the Learning Love podcast. I'm Dr. Mark A. Hicks, author of the book Learning Love. It is possible to build the healthy, happy, thriving relationships you have always wanted. So let's spend some time learning love. Love is the answer. Now all we have to do is explore all the questions. And today's question, can love be segmented? Can it be relegated to one area of our life while in other areas we live outside that realm of love? We live with hate and anger and bitterness and rage. Can we live that kind of life in some areas, feeling that it's very justified when we've been done wrong, when people are hurting us? Can we live with that rage, with that anger, with that bitterness, and at the same time find an area of our life that we can love and experience nurturing, and we can connect on an emotional level and have thriving relationships in that area, but in others we are defensive and combative and making sure that we get people before they get us? Can we live that kind of life? I've known a number of people that have tried to do that, that have lived one life or tried to live one life at work and a different life at home. Think about a man, I'll call him John. John is one of those tough guys. He had it rough growing up. His dad was a rough character and sometimes even physically violent as he grew up. And John learned very early in life, you got to be tough. You got to protect yourself. You've got to defend yourself. Life will hurt you. And so as he moved into adulthood, that's the kind of attitude he brought to his life, especially in his business. Everyone knew, don't mess with John. And if you do, you are in for a fight. He has a short fuse, and if you mess with him, he's going to blow. And not only that, John will hold a grudge. He will hold on to that bitterness for years, and he will find a way to cut you down if he can, because he will remember that slight, the way you turned against him, the way you battled against him. He will remember that, and he will look to get even. He was known for that. He was known as that tough guy you did not want to mess with, and John set out in everything he did to win. He was going to win. He would never take second place. He would never let anyone best him. He was never going to back down. He was always going to win. And then he met someone. He met a lady that he really fell in love with. They got married. They had kids. And what John wanted to do was find a different kind of life at home. He really loved his family. They were very special to him. And he wanted to have a family life that was very different than the one he grew up in. He wanted to be a different kind of dad. He wanted to be a different kind of husband than what he had seen his father do. He genuinely wanted to live a different kind of life at home. But the fact is, the way he lived at work and the way he lived in the community, he liked it. He liked being known as a tough guy. He liked being the winner. He liked being the brute that people were scared of. And he hoped that he could go home and switch all that off and just be nurturing and loving and kind with his family. He could play with the kids. He could help them with their homework. He could go home and kiss his wife and ask her about our day and just talk about things that went on and just enjoy a nice family life, something he had never had growing up and something he wanted for himself and something he wanted to provide for his kids. Now, that was a good idea, but it didn't really work. What would happen is John would try to do that, but something always happens. Families, they argue sometimes, and not everybody's always in a good mood. And sometimes things just don't always go as planned. It's not always going to be a blissful domestic scene, even in the best of families. And inevitably, John would get triggered. Something would happen, the kids would act up, his wife would say something he didn't like, and all that anger would come out. All that rage, that defensiveness would come out. He didn't want it to. That's not what he planned to do, but it would come out in his life because that's the kind of life he was living. That's the kind of identity he had developed and actually enjoyed being that tough brute everybody was scared of, it's very hard to switch to some other kind of life. Another person that I knew, a lady that came into a counseling program that I worked in, she was about 72 years old, I think. And she came into the counseling program because she was having so many health issues that the doctor decided were caused by emotional issues. They were caused by her depression and her anxiety. So she came into the counseling program, and long story short, we traced all of her issues back to a falling out she had with her sister 50 years prior when they were in their early 20s. And she had decided that if my sister would betray me, I can't trust anyone. She had generalized that one event because she was so angry and so enraged and so bitter and so hateful towards her sister that it had permeated every area of her life. She wasn't able to contain it. She had gotten married, she had had kids, she had a terrible relationship with all of them. She had known people in her community, she had had bitter relationships with everyone her whole life because of this one falling out that she had with her sister. And that rage, that defensiveness, that hatred, that bitterness permeated her life. Can we segment love into one area? Can we just love our family if we're hateful towards everyone else? If we are bitter and angry towards the world? Or if we live this life as John did, always having to be the tough guy that beat everyone else up, to win every day, to make sure everybody knew he was the boss, he was in charge, he was right? Can we take that life and build a nurturing, happy, healthy, thriving relationship at home? Theoretically, it might be possible, but I've never known it to happen. I have seen many people try. I've seen many people that attempted to do that over the years. I've never seen it work. I've not known everyone, so I won't say with 100% certainty that it's impossible. Maybe somebody can pull it off, but I've never seen it happen because anger and hatred and rage and bitterness, no matter what the root cause, tends to permeate our life. Defensiveness isn't usually selective. It's hard to drop that guard with someone that maybe we trust more. Maybe we really love them, but our brains have a tough time switching that off. Our brains are there telling us, you better protect yourself. Remember, you got hurt before by somebody you trusted. You better make sure you don't trust them. Our brains are there to make sure we don't get hurt. Our brains are there to protect us. That's the primitive function of our brain, to protect us, both physically and emotionally. And it's a higher level of thought to actually connect with people, to have that vulnerability, to take those risks that it takes to build healthy, thriving relationships. And so when we have bitterness and anger and rage in our life, and we are living that life, and especially if we start to identify that way, we start to live that out and think of ourselves as that kind of person that we're not going to take anything off anybody. We're not going to let anybody hurt us. We're going to make sure we hurt them before they hurt us. And if they do hurt us, we're going to make sure we get even. If we're living that kind of life and we want to just switch gears when we get home, that's probably not going to work because love is a practice of who we are. It's not an act. It's not something that we just put down and pick up whenever we want. Love has to be grown within us. It is organic. It is who we are. Love has to be grown within us to be given away. And hatred, anger, bitterness, fear, these kind of things, being afraid that we're going to be hurt again, these kind of things tend to stamp out the nurturing part of ourselves. It tends to hide all of those loving qualities we could have because we are so adamant about protecting ourselves and making sure everybody knows, don't mess with us. If we want to have these healthy, happy, thriving relationships, we have to become a person who knows how to love. Now, that doesn't mean that we let everybody walk on us, that we become weak. Too many people think that love is weak, and it is not. Love is strong. Love has boundaries. Boundaries are different than being defensive. Defensiveness, anger, rage, it feels like we're protecting ourselves. But what we're actually doing is building walls to create our own emotional prison. We're keeping everyone out, not just the selective people that we think might hurt us, but we're keeping everyone else out as well most of the time. We are keeping everyone out of our life, being defensive and being triggered by anything that we think might hurt us. When we develop a life of love, we don't become weak. We learn what boundaries are. Boundaries are those limits that we set and say to people, I'm living here in this healthy place. If you want to live here in this healthy place with me, you're welcome. But if you want to live outside of that, if you want to be abusive, if you want to be toxic, if you want to be hurtful, if you want to be hateful, then you're choosing not to have a relationship with me. We don't have to win. We don't have to beat people up. We don't have to show them how tough we are. We don't have to be defensive in a way that puts other people down. We can learn how to have boundaries. That's just as strong. In fact, it takes a lot more strength. It is a stronger person that learns how to have a life of love and set boundaries, not defensiveness. Defensiveness are those emotional walls that keep everyone out. Boundaries welcome everyone in, as long as you're living the type of healthy life that we're going to live. If we live that healthy life, if people want to be friendly with us, if people want to be good to us, if they want to have a healthy relationship with us, we welcome that. We welcome everyone in. We're not keeping people out. We're not building defenses. We're not barricading ourselves in. We are saying everyone's welcome, but I have a boundary. If you're going to treat me badly, if you're going to hurt me, if you're going to abuse me, if you're going to be the kind of person that will attack me, if you're going to undermine me, if you're going to betray me, then you're choosing not to be in a relationship with me. This is not kicking people out of our life. Boundaries is the idea that people choose whether or not to be in a relationship with us. And that choice comes when they choose to live that healthy life that we're choosing to live. If they want to live outside of that, that's their choice. They are choosing not to be in a relationship. I hope you can see the difference here between building those walls of defensiveness, fighting those battles, making sure everyone knows if you hurt us, we're going to hurt you back, and having a life of love that has healthy boundaries, that says, I'm not going to let you hurt me. I'm not going to let you attack me. And if you're going to be that kind of person, you're choosing to not be in a relationship with me. I don't have to attack you back. I don't have to hurt you. I don't have to be defensive about it. I don't have to hate you. You're choosing not to be in a relationship with me because you are choosing to be a hateful person, a person that hurts people, a person that lives outside this healthy realm that I'm choosing to live. You're choosing to be outside that boundary. That takes strength. That takes practice. That takes knowledge of love. And it takes loving ourselves enough to live a healthy life, to not build barricades, not build defensiveness, not attack people because we're afraid they're going to attack us, but loving ourselves enough to let people in, to allow them to be in relationship with us, but to set those healthy boundaries. There's a drastic difference between defensiveness and boundaries. And when we have a life of boundaries, we can be strong. We can be that tough person. We can set limits, but we don't do it in a way of anger and rage and defensiveness. We do it in a way that is healthy, that appreciates who we are, and we are going to defend that healthy life with the boundaries, allowing people to live outside of our relationship, outside of a relationship with us, if they choose to be a toxic or abusive person. Now, when we do that, we can go to work, we can go in the community, we can go out into a difficult, harsh world and be strong. We can go into a world and still be loving, but do it in a strong way because we have boundaries, because we're not going to let people mistreat us. But we don't have to go into a rage. We don't have to do it with anger. We don't have to do it with defensiveness. We can do it with boundaries. And as we do that, we're showing the strength that comes of being secure enough in ourselves to not have to lash out, to not have to inflict pain on other people because they might on us. Instead, we have those healthy boundaries. We let people live outside of those. We don't have to have a relationship with everyone. And when we live that kind of strength, when we nurture that in ourselves, it's going to be really easy then to go into our homes and be with our spouse, our kids, to be with our friends, and be nurturing and kind and have fun and enjoy life with them. It's going to be a lot easier. It is possible to deal with a harsh, cruel world and still be a strong person, but a person of love, living a life of love. I talk about this in my book, Learning Love, particularly in the third component of love. I teach the 5 components of love that anyone can learn and practice in order to live healthy, happy, thriving lives. And the third component of love is practicality. That's what we're really talking about here. We're talking about setting those practical boundaries, knowing we can't have relationships with everyone because some people are cruel, some people are abusive, and we don't need to have a relationship with everyone. We need to have relationships that are healthy. And so we welcome everyone in that wants to live in that healthy relationship. That's a practical reality that some people get to live outside of that, and that's okay. We don't have to hate them. We don't have to be enraged by them. We don't have to be angry with them. They've chosen to live outside that boundary. That's their choice. That's okay. And when we live that kind of practical reality, living that life of love, we can connect with people on an emotional level. We can be vulnerable. We can be able to connect on emotional levels without being afraid, without being defensive, knowing that when people want to be cruel and hateful, then we're just not going to have a relationship with them. Or we're going to set limits on that relationship. We're going to have healthy boundaries. We're not going to be defensive. When you live that life, it is a life of strength. It is a life of tenacity. It is a life of being tough, but in a different way than the rage and the anger. It's a quiet strength that says you're choosing to leave, and I'm choosing to have healthy, happy, thriving relationships in my life. And I'm choosing to have healthy, happy, thriving relationships in my life. This is what I want for you. This is why I talk about this all the time, because I believe this is the key to everything. When we have healthy, happy, thriving relationships at home, at work, in every area of life, it just makes life better. It builds happy families. It builds better communities. It builds a better society and a better world. This is what we're looking for. So we need tough, strong people that know how to set boundaries, but do it in a way of love, in a life of love. And so I encourage you to learn these 5 components of love and put them into practice. They're in my book, Learning Love, Building a Life That Matters, and Healthy Relationships That Last. It's available for pre-order right now. You can go to my website, markahicks.com. There are easy links there to order. Barnes & Nobles and other booksellers look very carefully at pre-orders for new authors like me, so it really helps out. If you're inclined to buy the book, if you go ahead and pre-order, that would be a great thing. That allows Barnes & Nobles to see that you're interested, and they'll put more effort into distribution and promotion when they see there are pre-orders, people that are interested in the book. It'll be available everywhere books are sold in June of 2025, and I hope that you'll pick up your copy in order to live that life of love. Love well, everyone.